Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Mayor Beagle is excused. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Present?
Councilmember Behrman.
Present.
Councilmember Gotchall.
Here.
Councilmember Grenlund Fox. Here. Councilmember O'Day.
Here.
Councilmember Sharp.
Present.
We have quorum.
All right, thank you. City Manager Brown, any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to take the consent agenda item number 2 and move it up to new business because there's an item that I need to discuss in terms of a minor change to the language.
Okay, we'll
It'd be new
make,
business number 3 or whatever you choose.
yeah, we'll make that new business item number 3 then. The item number 2,
The municipal credit contract.
credit contract with Suburban Mobile Authority. Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Assistant City Manager Benson,
I have none, sir.
any from the dais? All right. Oh,
I personally would like to have a conversation on the land row.
Oh, on the correspondence?
Yeah.
Land Road? Yeah, we can just leave that in the correspondence, so I think, and have a discussion, right?
I guess I'll defer to the city clerk. I might recommend moving it to new business number 4, just for consistency. Or does it matter? Can they discuss correspondence?
A separate discussion.
Let's just make it a separate discussion item.
Yeah.
Putting it first.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to make a decision on anything this evening, but just make sure we're on the same page.
So are we making that new business item number 1?
I'd just make it new business number 4. Maybe 4.
Yeah, for discussion.
Okay, just for discussion. All right.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the regular city council meeting of August 12th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
All right, motion to support. Any changes, additions? No? We have a motion to support to approve the regular city council minutes of August 12th, 2025. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passes. Correspondence is moved to number 4, new business, which brings us to the city manager's reports. We have the departmental reports from July 2025. Do you have any discussion, questions, clarifications needed? All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. We have a motion.
Support.
All right, we have a motion to support to approve the consent agenda tonight. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Which brings us to the first call of the public. I will read the call to the public rules. The public shall address the council during the call of the public, which will be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. First call of the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council. And persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves, their place of residence, and their reason for addressing the council. All comments made by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public tonight? All right, seeing no one, brings us to unfinished business. We have a recommendation to approve a one-year contract for $32,900 from Economic Vitality Account number 248-729-956.004 with Lamar of Westland, Michigan for a downtown Wixom billboard advertisement campaign and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Support.
All right, motion and support. All right, we'll give it to Laura here.
Good evening, everyone. At the last council meeting, there were some questions that needed clarification, and I'm going to highlight those now. Just to back up, the Economic Vitality Committee, along with the DDA, would like to create a billboard campaign along I-96 the north side of I-96 between Beck and Wixom Road. There's a billboard there with the company Lamar out of Westland. And to create interest and into the downtown, hopefully to gain more exposure to draw people to our downtown. There was a question about, is it a one-year contract or is it 13 payment cycles? It's actually 13 payment cycles. The way they break down their payment cycles are in 4 weeks. We are allowed to have 4 changeouts per year. They are giving us an 8% discount and that equates to $2,300 for every 4 weeks, with a total cost of $29,900. There were questions about the $1,000 one-time fee. It's one time per design. We do get one design fee free. So, for instance, this first cycle would be free for the design fee. So we would really only be paying a total of $3,000 throughout the campaign. And that brings the price to $32,900. So, and other than that, some of the areas that we have talked about, we haven't finalized yet because we're waiting for to start the production work with Lamar. I know last time it was mentioned about possibly highlighting that downtown Wixom's a trail town. The board really wants to highlight the Wednesdays in Wixom campaign to bring more people to the downtown restaurants in January and February, where we go and pay for people's meals. Other things that I think we could highlight, but it's not set in stone, is possibly the Derby Day races, and then the summertime months, the happenings that are happening in the summer. So, and those are just broad ideas. Like I said, they're not set in stone. Those may change slightly as we work through the designs with the billboard company. So, anybody have any further questions?
Open up for questions. Councilwoman Brendan Fox?
Thank you for the clarification, that's helpful. And I do like your ideas of the topics. I think that'll be good. Thank you.
Councilman Gotcho?
Thank you. I also wanted to thank you for bringing a little bit more clarity to the planning on this part of last time. It just felt like we were presented with everything we could possibly do, and it was a little raw for spending that kind of money. So looking at this, I do appreciate the more refined aspects, like Wednesdays in Wixom, the Derby Day. Block party might be something to advertise to. I do want to stay away, I think, just the general, what scared me about the last ones was like the big time shops, like the general stuff. I think we're still at a point where we actually need to have a topic to draw people in, and that's, I think, the trend for most of these so far. But instead of just saying like trail town, like actually be advertising something specific, even if we form a trail event to draw people in. Just try to actually have a draw instead of a general would be my say, but I am more supportive of this now. Thank you.
Regarding Block Party, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get it up in time for Block Party, but I understand what you're saying.
Councilman Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor, or Deputy Mayor. Ms. Cloutier, I have a fondness for data, and I was one of the ones that was asking a question on the
Yeah.
number of impressions.
Yes.
There's a sheet attached that describes how impressions are calculated, but not specifically how this calculation was made. So in my mind, I'm drawing a line through that line item about number of impressions and just thinking a lot of impressions.
Okay.
Not a number, because there's no basis, no justification, no backup. So if any council members are assuming we're going to have 677,000 impressions a week on a third of a billboard, I think that's faulty assumption. So just cross it off. Everybody that goes down 96 westbound, right, just westbound,
Yes.
will see our billboard, and that's an impression, and maybe there's 5 people in the car, so times 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's when I tried to clarify that with my contact at Lamar.
Yeah.
she's like, you can't just count one person in the car because it could be a school bus with kids with phones. It could be, you know, multiple people. So I understand your point. Point taken.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a source or something. But anyway, I saw the sheet, I read it. I'll support. I just, to me, the impressions is meaningless, the number. Thank you.
Councilwoman O'Day.
And I apologize, I read through the minutes from last meeting, but I wasn't here. So when you're saying shared by 3, because it rotates, is
Yep.
that the?
Yep.
Okay, and how often, do we know?
They said about every minute, minute and a half.
Okay. So again, you're not necessarily catching
Everybody that drives by, but with that, it's a longer time than a digital. A digital is about every 8 to 10 seconds it switches.
Okay, all right, I just want to clarify that, thank you. I think it's a great idea.
And I had one question, Ms. Cloutier. The design committee, then, they'll be working with the creative people at Lamar?
That's a typo. It's really between the Economic Vitality Committee and our Promotions Committee. What Lamar's going to do is, they're already starting to work on some concepts for us, and then I will get those and then email them out to my committees, and then I'll take feedback from them and give it back to Lamar so we can fine tune it.
All right, very good. Okay, thank you. No further questions then? All right, so we have a recommendation to approve a 1-year contract for $32,900 from Economic Vitality Account number 248-729-956.004 with Lamar of Westland, Michigan for a downtown Wixom billboard advertisement campaign, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Which brings us to new business item number 1, a recommendation to authorize participation in the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the acquisition of Police Department Administrative Office furniture, including demolition and installation, from KI of Wixom, Michigan, for a total cost of $46,325.54 from Facility Improvements Account number 401-301-979.370. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, we have motion support. Who's coming up? Chief Langmeyer, come on up.
Good evening. What you have before you is a request to purchase some office furniture for the police department. This is part of the renovations that we've been going through over the past couple of years. This year we did budget to replace the administrative office furniture, which includes my office, the lieutenant, one of the sergeant's office, and the administrative secretary's office area, plus all of our filing cabinets in that whole administrative section of the building. We've worked with KI in the past. They're here, a local company out of Wixom. They are a Sourcewell company. We're very, very happy with their work and working with their people. Very professional, very, very solid people. So we're asking for permission to move forward with the purchase of this furniture. The furniture we currently have, I've been told, is from the original building of the building, so it's over 30 years old. It's at the end of its lifespan. It's rusted. A lot of it is piecemealed from other projects. We've taken file cabinets from here, file cabinets from there, and it's just to the point of where it needs to be replaced. So we're asking for permission to move forward if we.
All right, any comments? Councilman Grundman Fox.
Hi.
Hi.
So I support this. I just have a question
Mhm.
that you made me think about when you said file cabinets. Do you scan? Do we have everything electronically scanned?
Do we have everything? Not quite. As we're going through this process, we are working our way through that. Everything we create now is electronic and filed electronically. We're now going through, I think there's 12 3-drawer file cabinets in the police administration. We're down to like 3 now. So we're working our way through getting it scanned in as we work through these. By the end of this project, it'll all be scanned.
So we won't need as many of the filing cabinets. So-
And this design does not have anywhere near what we have right now.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Councilman Behrman.
I just mentioned, I recently went through the process of replacing all of the furniture at our law firm, and the pricing is on par with probably what we paid. So even though it wasn't bid out, I feel like you're still getting a fair price for the amount of furniture you have in the quote.
thank you.
Councilman Sharp.
I was going to comment on tariff impact on the pricing because some of it's sourced from Canada, but I won't say anything.
Not much I can do about that.
All tariffs are included.
And I only had one comment, Chief. When I've done major office renovations in the past, I used to always invite a used furniture guy to come in and just bid on the whole lot of the old stuff, and a lot of times they would even haul it away for me. Are we considering that with the old stuff?
I didn't even know that was a thing that was out there. So I can have Denise take a look into it and we can see if that can be done.
Yeah, a lot of times they're looking for more of a banking environment where there's a lot of the same type of stuff, even if it's old, but you never know, right?
You never know. So,
All right, and maybe I can forward on a contact from
yeah, I would appreciate that.
my old archives. Okay.
Deputy Mayor. Or you could put it in front of my driveway on Wednesdays and the guy with the pickup truck will haul it away.
That's true.
Careful what you ask for, it's a little bit of stuff.
Is it metal? It's gone.
One person's done.
The old gunmetal gray. All right, very good. So we have a recommendation to authorize participation in the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for the acquisition of Police Department Administrative Office furniture, including demolition and installation, from KI of Wixom, Michigan, for a total cost of $46,325.54 from Facility Improvements Account number 401-301-979.370. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Very good. Nice to get that project done and behind us. All right, new business item number 2 is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance to amend the Wixom Code of Ordinances, Title 18.00, Zoning, Chapter 18.12, General Provisions, to add a new section 18.12.160 to provide regulations for mobile food vending, amend Section 18.12.180 to differentiate mobile food vending as a temporary use, and amend Chapter 18.24.080 definitions, Section 18.24.080 to provide definitions for mobile food vending. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Support.
All right. Our Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll invite planning consultant Mateo Passalacqua to join, and he'll do much of the heavy lifting talking about this. But just to sort of refresh, this was an item that Planning Commission had recommended and City Council discussed at your May 27th meeting. After your discussion, you remanded it back to the Planning Commission to address a few kind of specific items and questions and things to clarify. So in the couple months since then, we've been working with the Planning Commission to make those adjustments. And just to kind of put a big picture, preface on this, the intent of these ordinance amendments are just to provide clarifications and specific regulations as it relates to mobile food vending. The city historically has not had that, so we've historically sort of fit them into our special events and temporary land use regulations, but they weren't necessarily a perfect fit. So that's how this item came up, and I'll defer to Mr. Passalacqua to kind of talk through what's changed since you've last seen it and what we're hoping to accomplish.
So good evening, Teo Passalacqua, Carlisle Wortman Associates, we're the planning consultants for the city. So as Assistant Manager Benson had mentioned, he kind of gave the preamble to how we're here this evening. The one thing I would just add is that in the almost 2 years that I've been here, we've seen like a slight uptick in the interest in food trucks in the community. So that kind of prompted us to look at, regulations that both promoted but also gave the city better guidance on how we could regulate these types of operations. So we did build off of the special event and the temporary land use structures of your current ordinance. And so your special events are for 7 days or less. Your temporary uses are for more than 7 days, up to 12 months. So using that structure, we kind of put in some specific regulations as it related to food truck operations. We provided a memo in the packet. I've got some bird's eye view standards as it relates to the different types, so I'll kind of go through those and then would be happy to answer any questions. So if it's a special event that's 7 consecutive days or less, and specific regulations that would apply to that would be that they could be administratively approved. They're allowed in any zoning district. You can apply for one special event or multiple special events in a single application or multiple applications. There just needs to be 14 days between the events. This was really just to kind of differentiate between a special event and a temporary use, and potentially circumvent anyone who might just try to do 7-day back-to-back events. It's a little out there, but it doesn't hurt to have the language there. When looking at food trucks seeking to be more than 7 consecutive days, we would look at that as a temporary use. And so with this, again, it would be up more than 7 consecutive days up to a year. Those would be reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission at a public hearing. They're allowed in all non-residential zoning districts with the exception of VCA Core, which does allow upper story residential. There are 2 12-month extensions that can be granted by the building official. However, they can be denied if the changes that have been proposed, if there are changes that they're proposing to their site plan, or if there's been any cited violations as it relates to city, county, or state code or regulations in the preceding year. Once those 12-month extensions have been used, so you get your first year, then you get extended for another year, and you could get extended for a third year. But at the end of that third year, if they continued or if they would like to continue operating, they need to go back to the public or back to the Plan Commission at a public hearing, present a plan, kind of restart the process. The other kind of bird's eye view item with temporary uses is that no more than 5 would be able to operate in a VCA court at any given time, with the exception of an approved food court. And that there are specific standards both in the amended language and your existing zoning ordinance that the Planning Commission and the city can use, but there's also a mechanism for a temporary event where the Planning Commission can apply reasonable conditions to approval, kind of depending on the specific nature of what's being proposed. Standards that would apply to both is that they can operate, on public or private property with permission. Trucks cannot take up parking spaces that are needed to meet the minimum required for a site. They can operate 7 days a week, 7 to 10 in non-residential areas, 9 to 9 in residential districts. Gas generators are not permitted unless there's no reasonable access to electricity. In the event that a gas generator would be used, they do need to meet the performance standards of the zoning ordinance as it relates to fumes, noise, things of that nature. Kind of as we discussed, in context of city events and things of that nature, blinking lights are permitted in the VCA core and city parks. However, the loud music or audible distractions aren't allowed in any of the districts. As it relates to food courts, just the big things here is that they would have to provide sanitary facilities, bathrooms and whatnot, and they would have a mechanism for being able to provide tables, canopies, chairs, things of that nature to kind of support the area that they were operating out of. Last but not least, when we're talking about violations, there are some mechanisms here for the city to both revoke a special event or a temp land use permit if they find that the conditions of approval have not been met, the operations are having an adverse effect on surrounding properties, or they're using the site contrary to what was represented and approved by the Planning Commission in their site plan. The applicant would be able to appeal this revocation within 30 days of notice. And again, the city does have a mechanism for applying fines for violations. So with that, again, those are some bird's eye view of what we're looking at. There's obviously more specifics in the amendments itself, but at this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Next step, because I know we try to do this and then like fee schedule before, and if I'm recalling correctly, we kind of tabled all of that, or did we?
Correct. Yep.
is that the next step then, is setting fees after this? And
Yeah.
are we debating charging for like the special events or not?
We, I mean, that's a conversation to have with city council. Yes, you would, we would recommend a fee schedule adjustment related to temporary event mobile food vendors. For special events, they've been free. Our recommendation would continue to have them be free. So really, we're just talking about the fees associated with more than 7 consecutive days.
Okay.
In the absence of any adjustments from city council, we would just treat them with the same fees that a temporary land use has, because it's essentially the same thing. Really, the only discussion point there would be if you wanted to make it less expensive to promote that kind of use, that's a potential conversation, but that's a different agenda item.
Okay. Thank you. That was protecting kind of the HOA situation was the primary question there. Knowing that we've rezoned, and I just pulled up the VCA maps as well, so like the core, I understand you can have one for 7 days or longer. Temporary, you can have period in any, but transition would cover things like Renton, it looks like, and or no, the elementary school is where that would cut off. So we don't know quite what might ever go there. Should we adjust so it would be allowed in transition at this time, or we can adjust the zoning map later if we need to? Like, just thinking ahead so we don't have to constantly be changing things.
Yeah, I would recommend that not including transitional at this time, because if you we would end up adjusting the zoning for the elementary school property if a commercial use ended up going in there. So I think that would end up getting addressed through whatever happens with that project, as opposed to worrying about this ordinance specifically.
Just to offer context, and maybe this is implied with your statement, special events, 7 consecutive days or less could function in TR.
I'm just thinking, like, let's say that's storefronts and we want to have like a longer term situation.
Gotcha.
Just so we aren't in a position where we've forgotten and then somebody is technically in violation even though we don't actually care and we would promote it. Just trying to make sure we don't forget later, basically, was my thought.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councilman Sharp.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First of all, whoever put together this packet did a really nice job of, I'm not sure, Drew, that's your, Mr. Benson or Mr. Passalacqua.
Yeah, we're a team.
It was super easy to go through, the red and blue. I really appreciate it. It was very straightforward and easy to tell where changes were. I have one question specifically because last time when we tabled this, I voted no to not table it. I thought it was complete. And then I go to the Thursday night concert, and there was a food truck that had this Klieg light flashing, and I thought, this is terrible, having blinking lights. So now I see blinking lights are allowed in the VCA core. However, if I'm reading it correctly, probably what I saw at the food truck may not have been allowed because it's supposed to be shielded and pointed down. It's not, blinking lights aren't to be, and what I can't tell is that apply to all blinking lights or just the blinking lights in the residential area, the blinking lights in the core and city parks, they have to maintain the shielding that's described just above that. Seems to be. When it describes blinking lights, it says, shall not use blinking lights unless they're shielded to direct the illumination downward.
Correct, in the ordinance language itself.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So the food trucks in the VCA core, if they have a blinking light, still need to focus it downward. Can't be announcing it to the world that I've got a blinking light on my truck.
Correct. I mean, that's kind of a safe mechanism for something that might be a little brighter than what we all envisioned. I think the intent really was for lack of a better explanation, the Christmas light blinkers that are kind of shrouded around the trucks at times.
Yeah. So I like the words are fine with me, but what are we doing about it? And this isn't really to Mr. Passalacqua, I guess more to the city enforcement. What happens if you got somebody at, an epilepsy person who's having an attack because of, and I don't claim to know much about epilepsy, But I know strobe lights could be causing that. They got a truck with a strobe light on it. Who's going to enforce that? How does that, sorry, I should talk to the microphone a little bit. How does that get enforced on the day of an event, you know?
You know, in all honesty, a situation like that would get addressed, you know, if we're at a concert in the park and there's a complaint, we're not gonna have a code enforcement officer on site. What probably happens is that someone reports it to Deanna's team or the police, and we go have a conversation with them. You know, if it becomes a recurring issue, if it's a city event, we can choose not to work with them, or we can, I mean, we have more control over that. Let's say it's a private drafting table has a food truck with a blinking light, and we're getting complaints. Again, we'd probably have a conversation with the folks who are pulling the special event permit, and we kind of have to work it out. I can't tell you a clear answer, it's circumstantial.
Okay, yeah, it's no hard, fast rule on how almost any ordinance gets enforced, right? It's a matter of getting feedback from whoever the offended party is, and then acting in the best way possible, considering the circumstances. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Councilman Gottschalk?
Thank you. Kind of to that point, because I guess I didn't get through that full sentence, because I just kind of read shall not be permitted, and then to finish off the paragraph, it says shall be allowed in VCA 4. I guess the council, I don't know that we actually need to like allow strobing or flash, like I don't, other than being a distraction and capturing people's attention, I don't understand the point of why we would need to allow it. And in most cases, I'd imagine the trucks are gonna be out after work hours. Like, to your point, we're not going to have code enforcement clocked in to deal with it. I think it would probably just be better to not allow it, period, across everywhere, every zoning district, unless everyone else feels different. Thank you.
Councilman Behrman?
I'm not too far off from having the same feeling about flashing lights, especially like during the light of the night fireworks, and all those food trucks are there and they don't turn their lights off during the fireworks, and they have the rope lighting all around them that's flashing throughout the entire fireworks. I think it's more of a distraction, and I also think the generator thing is really something we need to look at. If we're going to continue to have food trucks all the time downtown, we either need to probably look into installing power, so we don't have to have the generators and we're just sitting there listening to them and inhaling the fumes. Because it seems to be becoming more of an issue that some of the generators are louder and their lights are more flashing. And maybe that's just us, we need to enforce it better ourselves. You know, hey, you're not going to be welcome back here if you don't have a quiet generator and if you have your lights flashing. But it seems like it's always the same food trucks that come over and over again. And the one food truck I'm thinking of, the hamburger food truck that always has their rope light flashing, is always parked in the same spot, blocking the view of half the people sitting downtown watching the fireworks. I don't know why they continue to do that. So I would probably be fine removing the flashing lights and strobe lights from the ordinance of even being a possibility. And I think we as a city should probably not allow a vendor we let in to be doing that as well.
And I'll add my 2 cents. I happen to be sitting, I think, near Councilman Behrman and Councilman Sharp at that particular concert. And I think it was the flavored ice vendor, and it was a very bright white. And, you know, later you get in the year, it gets darker for that last hour of the concert, and out of your periphery, you got this strobe light going. It is quite annoying. And I noticed that this year there were a lot more of the hot blues and barbecue vendors that did plug in under the benches. Thank you very much, Tim. So there were fewer generators going than normal, and maybe we do need to look at putting more 220 station, whatever is required out there underneath those benches. So I wouldn't be opposed to having it struck entirely.
The flashing lights, in the essence that they are not permitted as part of a food truck operation regardless of special, temporary, all that fun stuff. Okay.
Councilman Gottschalk.
Being that this is the first reading, would we need to act, or you can just, like, I don't know if everyone needs to chime in with direction, but can you make that adjustment on your own before the second reading?
Yes, I believe that we can have that adjusted. It'll be reflected at the second reading. If you move to second reading, yes, we can do. Okay, thank you.
Do we have consensus that flashing lights should be removed, or?
General consensus?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion on the first reading of the ordinance? Okay, clerk, do we need to vote on this since we're getting,
Yeah, you would
yeah, okay.
want to modify it with removing flashing lights.
I don't think you need to do that.
No?
No, we can just leave it be, because we got the direction, so
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm just saying that we do need to do the usual action on there, yes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in front of us, we have the introduction and first reading of an ordinance to amend the Wixom Code of Ordinances, Title 1800 Zoning, Chapter 18.12, General Provisions, to add a new section 18.12.160, to provide regulations for mobile food vending, amend Section 18.12.180, to differentiate mobile food vending as a temporary use, and amend Chapter 18.24.080, definitions, Section 18.24.080, to provide definitions for mobile food vending. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, have your direction. Thank you, Mr. Postlein.
Thank you.
Okay, which brings us to new business item number 2, a recommendation to approve, or 3, a recommendation to approve the 2025-2026 municipal and community credit contract with the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation, SMART, in the amount of $16,093, and authorize the city manager to sign the contract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. City Manager Brown.
Yeah, so just as a basic introduction on this, we've been passing municipal and community credit contracts with Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation for years and years. This particular contract does reflect a change in the language from the recent practice after the Oakland County-wide transportation millage was passed. In the past, there was language in there about potentially not sending all the money to PEX or having a question in relation to that on a yearly basis, essentially. This contract turns it into a perpetual arrangement, basically, so until we make a move to opt out of the contract or request a change to the contract would just renew with Wixom directing all of our municipal credit money, which is the only money that we get, to PEX. And that's through an Oakland County and PEX contract that also changed over the period of time as we started with this new process. But the contract is now currently between Oakland County and PEX, and this one will be perpetual. In other words, until we say we need to change it, it will continually provide all the funding that we receive from SMART through municipal credits to PEX for them to operate a demand response style transportation system. All of that would have been fine on consent agenda, in our opinion. That's why we had it on consent agenda to begin with. However, very late in the game here, we had a concern that came up in relation to indemnification language in there. And SMART had language in there that the city would indemnify SMART and hold harmless and all the other language that goes with indemnification for our actions or the actions of PEX. There's a question as to whether we can legally indemnify SMART. So our city attorney representative has asked us to add language to number 4 in the contract, indemnification. We're going to add between shall and indemnify, comma, to the extent provided by law, comma. So the community shall, comma, to the extent provided by law, comma, indemnify, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in other words, if there's no legal standing for us to indemnify SMART, that it would basically make that null and void, and make it go away. That's something that's been discussed between our attorney and SMART. My understanding is they will accept the change, so I'm asking just for you to know that you're going to have that change to the contract as you're voting on this evening. I don't think you need to change the language of the recommendation or anything. I'm just letting you know that the language of the contract is going to be modified to that extent.
Should we revise the action item to be as amended, or?
If you want to, that's fine. Otherwise, you just know that I'm going to get the language changed before I execute it, whichever you can say as amended.
All right.
Whatever your preference. I'm comfortable either way.
Any questions, discussion? Makes sense. Okay, so we have a recommendation to approve the 2025-2026 municipal and community credit contract with Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation, SMART, in the amount of $16,093, and authorize the city, as amended, and authorize the city manager to sign the contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, which brings us to new business item number 4, correspondence on the Landro Connector Road. Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll keep it short. I know Councilmember Behrman's the one who asked to move this to discussion. The reason we provided this correspondence on a conceptual discussion that Planning Commission had, we normally wouldn't, but the concept of connector roads is something that the city has talked about for years, well before my tenure, and I believe City Manager Brown's. And specifically the idea of a western connector road between Pontiac Trail and West Maple. There currently is, no way to traverse other than Wixom Road. So, and we've had past conversations with City Council about this, specifically the possibility alongside a development. So Planning Commission had a conceptual discussion with the potential developers for 300 Landro Drive, and as a part of the city's discussions with them, we negotiated the potential dedication of additional right-of-way. So they would be required to provide a private drive for themselves that meets certain city standards. And then they could keep that private, but they would have to do, let's say, 2/3 of the distance between Pontiac Trail and Maple Road. If the city wanted, and this is what we had negotiated, we could acquire additional right-of-way from them that could get us to Maple Road, giving the city the option to connect at some point in the future. We would not be under any obligation to do so, but you'd be acquiring the right-of-way. In exchange for that, the developer essentially wanted to pursue a planned unit development to accommodate zoning deviations that would be required to meet, sort of their expectations, as well as be able to dedicate this additional right-of-way. So that's how this ended up in front of the Planning Commission, and really the intent of a conceptual discussion is to get their feelings on it. I'll just summarize. Planning Commission was not in favor, unanimously, they were not in favor of the concept of getting this additional right-of-way and granting these deviations. Specifically, they were concerned about what a possible future connection between West Maple and Pontiac Trail would look like. And again, I want to make it abundantly clear for council and for anyone who might be watching that the intent would not be to build this road immediately. It would be to acquire the right-of-way, and there'd be, a lot of design and public engagement and work that would have to be done to actually figure out how to connect to them. But does the city want the opportunity to get it? So, again, normally we might not bring this to you, but given kind of the larger citywide policy implications of a decision like that, we at least wanted to communicate that that's where this particular project stood. And if pursuit of this right-of-way was a priority for City Council, this might be an opportunity to have a joint meeting with the Planning Commission just to discuss and kind of get on the same page of, are these community-wide priorities, or maybe this isn't an idea worth pursuing. And that's specifically relevant because a planned unit development requires approval from both the Planning Commission and City Council. So, and there's information in the packet or the correspondence that sort of alludes to that. So that's the idea behind the correspondence, and then if the idea is to discuss tonight, just looking for some direction from city council as to, do you want additional pursuit on this, or are you okay with the developer in the direction for planning commission to just pursue a by right project and sort of eliminate any conversations about the additional right-of-way at this time?
Mr. Vincent, the 2/3 Land Road Drive would remain private until such time we might discuss it becoming a city road?
If we were acquiring the right-of-way, I would strongly recommend that we also take the drive public at that time, because then you don't have to negotiate later, like, oh, now I'll take your road in whatever condition it's in.
Even if it's dead ending in the property
Correct.
itself?
And we do have other older cul-de-sacs, the last, Tim, you might know better than me, but let's say the last 10, 15 years, we don't take dead-end cul-de-sacs as public anymore. But it wouldn't be unprecedented to do so, especially knowing we're acquiring additional, paper street right-of-way.
Right. Okay. Council comments? Start with Mr. Bearman.
Well, I guess the reason why I asked this to come on to the agenda for discussion purposes was because I feel like we've already spent a lot of time and money on it already, discussing it, and I don't want to keep spending money on it if this isn't something that council wants to do. I know it's in the capital plan 5 years down the road or something along those lines, and we've approved that year in and year out, but it keeps getting kicked down. My personal view is I think a connection there would be smart and safer, especially now that we're going to have an elementary school over there. So if something was to happen at Wixom and Maple Road, we'd still be able to get, emergency vehicles in and out of that side of the city. But it's also going to be a very expensive project, and if the council isn't going to have the appetite to fund this, estimated several $1 million, then perhaps we just need to say we don't have the appetite and let the developer go forward and stop spending our city money on designing whether or not this could or could not accommodate a road for us in the future. Straw poll, I would probably say I'd still be in favor of doing it, but if the majority of council is not there, then I would say let's move forward with not doing it and be done.
Councilwoman Day. Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. I think a lot of the planning commissioner comments I would share as well, in terms of like worrying about the speed of drivers and increased traffic through a residential area. I think one of the overlooked issues is also Maple is a city-owned road and Pontiac Trail is not. So if we're deviating, like traffic can back up from Old Wixom Road to Lion Oaks. And I've been stuck there before leaving golf practice. And having that option to get from Pontiac Trail to West Maple and is going to deviate a lot of traffic onto our road that we're responsible for the maintenance of, and probably degrade it a little bit faster, which I don't think is helpful, especially when we're paying to then degrade our own responsibility even more. I know we already have a lot of issues and people showing up about charms and the speed that people go there. To my mind, like making the current detour down the dirt road of Maple to Old Plank, yes, it's a little bit longer, but that road is literally smoother than some other paved roads in Commerce Township that I use to get to other places. So even Waterford. So it like, I understand it's longer, but even with a new elementary school there, everybody can still get to there. It's not like there's not another way to get to the school. And they might even be cut off from the train if it's blocking Maple anyway, which it does at times. So just kind of looking back, when we discussed different options a year or two ago for roads, I recall this kind of being at that, everyone in council at that time, like this was like the lowest priority of like the 4 or 5 options we were presented. I still don't see it as like being a net benefit for the cost for the city. And I would, if we're going straw poll, I'd be on team like just move on and stop talking about it and don't spend, not just time, but please don't build it and spend that money on it. That's my thought. Thank you.
Councilman Brendan Fox.
So I like the idea of having an optional route, but I too, when I was reading all the comments in the planning minutes, commission minutes, I understand their concerns about the additional traffic. I didn't even think about the wear and tear, additional wear and tear on the road. But you had said something that made me think too. Did you say, maybe I didn't understand what you were, didn't hear you correctly, but did you say in order to move this forward, that the planning commission and city council had to both agree?
To do a planned unit development as the developer wants to do, yes.
Which we would have to do if we purchase that right away
Correct.
and move forward.
Well, and I want to add the reason for that. There's a version of this that the city council could unilaterally go negotiate with the property owner to buy right of way and, do the whole thing yourself. Then planning commission doesn't have to be involved. They have to be involved because our preference is that the developer pay for building as much road as they were already going to want to build.
Absolutely.
And, they want to secure, their development to the greatest extent that they can while working with us. So that's why the PUD has to work in this particular case.
So we could go through all this, purchase the right of way, and then we wouldn't be able to do anything anyway because planning commission might not agree to the PUD?
Well, we wouldn't purchase the right of way. You couldn't get it without we would only purchase the additional right of way if the planned unit development was approved, works through the whole process. We'd have a development agreement that would set up to say,
Okay.
we would buy it.
So at this point, we could say, yes, let's move forward, but it might not happen anyway once we get to that point.
If the consensus of council was, we think this is a priority and worth additional discussion, not even a commitment to saying yes, just like, hey, we should talk about this more, we would recommend a discussion with the planning commission just to build a little bit of consensus between the bodies of understanding the project, the pros and cons, and then for us as an administration, having more clear direction of how you want us to proceed.
Okay.
Part of the issue is that the planning commission is the first step on the PUD process. If they're not on board with it, we'd have that issue. So the idea is to have some sort of a meeting of the minds of the planning commission and city council about this, or attempt to get that accomplished so that we can avoid that conflict, if you will.
Sure.
It's generally what we're aiming for.
I do like the idea of pursuing the option of having an additional route. So I would say my vote would be to move forward and see what happens.
Thank you. Councilman Sharp.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I can't remember all the numbers we looked at before, but it was an expensive proposition either way, acquiring the right-of-way, building our section of the road, and then not just inside, south of the airline trail, but then I don't know how long it is, quarter mile between the airline trail and Maple. And that's a kind of a wonky intersection too. It's going to be expensive. And I feel like the main benefit is going to be for Milford Township, not for us. They're just going to come down that road and I don't know where they're going, but it doesn't feel like a Wixom benefit other than, the Landro folks getting our money to help them develop their property. And crossing the airline trail, we just got this done. I don't know. I guess my straw poll is let Landro be Landro, and we'll take our money elsewhere.
All right, I guess, my thoughts on this, because I've been on council for 16 years, it's always come up, is, the option of emergency vehicles having an alternate at some point in the future, and the city is still growing. We have new housing developments going in. The use of the road, I think, would be a lot of residents that are going west on 96 to work that may have to drop kids off at Wixom L when it gets built. So the key is, all of us here on council probably won't be here when this becomes a reality if we leave the option open. But if we don't leave the option open now, it could never become a reality. It would be 5-10 years from now when that road would actually get built, realistically, right? So I guess I'm of the opinion that we should keep the option open as negotiated and see where it goes. I don't know if this is possible. Could you restrict northbound traffic on that segment from commercial traffic other than local deliveries?
I'm not 100% sure. Tim might be able to help me with that. Broadly speaking, probably not.
Probably not.
I think even if you could, it would be difficult to enforce. You know, and that was one of the comments from planning commissioners, is we already, to some extent, struggle with regulating heavy trucks coming
Right.
from Milford
From
going
Milford.
down West Maple. So what's to stop them from, you know, in the alternative? So there would be challenges with it, absolutely.
But they'd have a shorter path through the city by going the quarter mile onto Landrow Drive, which is industrial anyway.
That is correct. And also, I mean, I think one of the things that we've thought about from a sort of staff perspective is acknowledging that Milford Township is growing and will continue to grow, and whether it's industrial traffic from, you know, Puno and in that area, we're not sure what will happen with them, but we know we'll get more traffic from them.
Yeah.
And then, you know, where does that go? It ends up on Maple regardless. But no, there's pros and cons either way.
But people that are in the Del Webb development there in Milford Road, if they're gonna head east, they'll probably hit the freeway or Pontiac Trail anyway. That's my opinion, but straw poll, I would be in favor of keeping it as an option, so. Oh, Councilman, go ahead. Right.
I was just going to say I concur, Councilman Resnick. I think there's more value to leaving it as an option than eliminating it completely at this time.
So I guess just to wrap up my thoughts on that, it sounds like there's more in favor of at least seeing what it is. We need to figure out whether or not we need to do that meeting with the planning commission to make sure we can all be on the same page, or whether or not how we can move forward without planning commission if we want to do it. And then moreover, what the time frame and what the actual budget is going to be, because I mean, if we're going to be able to do it, great. But if we're not, there's a lot of other roads in the city that need work that we could budget the money on. Sooner than later, I guess, would be my thing at this point.
Sure. So I want to make sure I count. I believe that there are 4 members of council present tonight who have indicated they'd be interested in continuing the conversation about the road. If that's the case, and I believe I have that right, then yeah, our next step is we'd look to have we're already planning a special or a joint meeting related to the master plan in the coming weeks, months anyways. So that's something that we'll work on. We'll work on getting that scheduled to have that conversation, and we can go from there. I agree with your point on the budgeting side. The only thing I would say to that is, it still is dependent on this plan is presented, depends on the developer. If they move through the PUD process and they build their portion, that's probably when we would come to you all and say, all right, we'd like to have a design budget for doing the engineering. To this point, we have not expended much, money doing, facilitating these conversations. That's where the real expense would come, is once, we have certainty that they're doing their part, beyond the, let's call it $400,000 for acquiring the right of way up front. So beyond that, the actual construction and design engineering would come after that. Does that make sense?
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I think you have at least some direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. That brings us to the second call to the public for this evening and ends our new business section. So anyone wishing to come up and say whatever's on their mind, the second call to the public, please come to the podium. All right, seeing none, city manager's comments. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. In my city manager update, we just had 10 employees celebrating anniversaries in September, ranging from 1 year, Jillian Keitel, and up to 19 years with Jason Brittmeyer in our fire department. And I'll shout out a couple of my compatriots in the 8-year cohort there, Mr. Mark Westenberg and Andrew Tabor, since mine was 8 years this year. That's the only thing that I had on a city manager update. And if you have any questions or anything on your mind, let me know. Otherwise, I am set, sir.
Assistant City Manager Benson.
The only thing I was going to add, and I kind of already gave it away, but was just going to give you the heads up that we are going to look to schedule a joint meeting related to master plan discussions, and specifically as we're getting into the goal setting, really fine tuning the master plan about the downtown portions and kind of future planning for that. So really just a heads up that we'll be kind of shooting around some dates and trying to find something that works for the majority of council, planning commissioners, and DDA board members. Just another heads up, the Downtown Development Authority did discuss the barn at their meeting this morning. Their preferred option and direction to staff was that they are interested in trying to save the barn, and they would like to do design work related to coming up with a plan that would keep it in its current location. And so they've directed us to work on that, so we will continue to provide updates, and you'll probably see some expenses related to some design work sooner rather than later. If there are any questions, comments, or concerns about that, we can, happy to talk now or offline or whatever, but wanted to let you know that's continued to move. And that's all I have.
All right, see how it develops. All right, City Council comments. We'll start down here. Councilman Behrman.
Really, I didn't really have anything to add this evening. The only thing I'll note is looking at the Crossroads magazine, I see it has the people running for council next time around. I just wanted to bring attention to Veronica, who's taking the time to attend all of these meetings and see what she's getting herself into in November. I appreciate that you're taking the time to come and see the meetings.
And just to be clear, she's not on payroll yet, just so she knows.
Great. Councilman O'Day.
Thank you. Again, I don't have a lot either, just that, excuse me, the Thursday night concerts, actually this summer, for some reason, my schedule has not been very open on Thursdays, so I've probably missed more this past summer than any past one in the past 5 years. I will say, though, they are fabulous. I know Deanna actually just walked out, but they're so well attended, well received. And as a matter of fact, at the barbecue night, my daughter relayed a message to me. She had gone. I wasn't able to attend, and she found herself in a conversation with a group of folks who don't understand why we can't go all the way through the end of September. So they're very popular and liked by everyone in the community.
Councilman Sharp.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
Councilman Brendan Fox.
The only comments tonight would be to thank all those employees celebrating work-anniversaries, to thank them and say congratulations. Thank you.
Councilman Gutschall. No, okay. I just want to also add, Chief Langmeyer, the great work with the embezzlement forgery case, along with the state of Michigan. That's great to nip those things in the bud and drive them to a conclusion. So thank you very much, and your force for whatever work was done on that. I know it must have been quite an undertaking and try to catch someone in that. That's just, it happens though. So great job. I also enjoyed the concert series this summer. Fantastic. Weather mostly cooperated. We had a couple shortened versions because of the rainstorms, but it's been going great. And we did extend it by 1 week about 2 years ago, I think so. And thank you again for getting those lights installed. What a difference being able to see the drummer in the back when that sun starts going down. Even when it's bright out, it's hard to see into the gazebo when you got the band set up. It was really a nice addition, so thank you so much for that. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.